Okay, good evening YouTube. Welcome back to this next episode of FPL Family with me, Lee, and this is Sam. First things first, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year. Hope you had a great Christmas. We certainly had a great Christmas. It was chaotic, fun, wonderful. We've got children that are properly at Christmas age. You know what I mean? Proper Christmas age. And it was wicked, wasn't it? Wicked. However, New Year's, we just stayed in, didn't we?
That's kind of the thing, isn't it? Is if you have kids that enjoy Christmas.
Yeah. You have all the fun at Christmas, and then New Year tends to be, you just got to stay in.
Well, we went out for a nice dinner.
We did, to be fair. Yes, we did. We did.
We had a bottle of champers. You know, what is there not to like?
Yes, absolutely. So let us know whatever you did over New Year's and Christmas, guys. Get in the comments. We love to hear about what you guys got up to. How was FPL for you? It's been fast and furious, hasn't it? And it continues to be, by the way, because we are just at the end of, and I'm going to get this wrong, so keep me honest, we are just at the end of game week 18.
Yeah.
Game week 19's deadline is as soon as tomorrow, guys, 4 p.m. UK time. So we have about, less than a day, less than 24 hours until the game week 19 deadline. And it is a double game week, guys. The first this season? Yeah. Double game week of the season. Incredible how these game weeks are turning around.
I have no idea what I'm doing either. Do you?
I've got, yeah, I think so.
Do you?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
at least one. I've got 2 free transfers. You've got 2 free transfers as well, right?
Yeah, but up until, when was this deadline? Friday, I knew what I was doing. On Friday, before the game week 18 deadline, I knew what I was doing. I had my transfers in my mind. That's what I was doing. Roll round to now.
It's all changed.
Man City can't win. Chelsea can't win. Spurs can't do anything. Suddenly, it's a bit like, well,
you just need a 1 to 11 from Arsenal.
Out in the air.
Just need a 1 to from Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal are looking
Liverpool
so
can't win
good
unless
at the minute.
They get own goals scored for them.
God, blimey.
What the hell was that about,
my
by
days.
The
way? We're going to talk about poor old Fass later on because
he had a nightmare, didn't he?
The poor guy, honestly, Liverpool was so lucky to win that game. We'll talk about that a bit later on.
That happened last year and he can leave it behind.
He can leave it. Yes, his New Year's resolution is not to score any more,
no more own goals.
Yeah. But we've got to talk about Salah. We've got to talk about Nunez, who again blanked.
No, he didn't.
Well, he got an assist, didn't he? I still think the points are coming, but we're going to talk about Nunez in a bit. We're going to talk about the Kevin De Bruyne blank, the Kane blank. I mean, do we even need any premiums, right? Or do we just go for Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli in midfield and be done with it?
At one point, I thought Haaland was going to get sent off. I thought, if Haaland
there was a risk.
If Haaland
definitely
gets
could have
sent
happened.
off here and misses the next game, genuinely, where are we with our premiums?
Definitely could have happened because it was... I don't think it was a red. The one where his boot come off. See that?
Yeah, but it was because we were watching soccer, BT Sport.
Yeah.
And it was listening to them, because obviously you couldn't see it live here in the UK, so we were kind of listening to these guys all chatting away about whether it's a red card, whether it's a yellow card, and before you know it, you kind of like, well, what is actually, I was taking the Christmas tree down at the time, I was like, what is actually happening?
Yeah. But all the premiums seem to be, I mean, Salah, KDB, Kane outside of Haaland, it's like, what's going on with the premiums? We'll talk about that in a bit as well. Let's say hello and Happy New Year to a few people. All the usual patron supporters are in, so guys, hope you are doing well. Duncan Crawford is in. We've got Cyberdet is here. FPL Scoped, Happy New Year. All Stephen Harker is in. Graham Shaw. Matthew Lewis, Happy New Year. Everyone's saying Happy New Year. What a great little community we've got here. Awesome. Scott Schrager, the OG, is here. Daniel Banks is here. FPL Pompkino. Hello from South Africa. Hello, South Africa. Nice to see you. Liam Healy is in, as usual. Happy New Year, Lee and Sam. Hope you had a great Christmas. We did, mate. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Feels like a long time ago, Christmas.
It doesn't it?
Somehow.
Yeah, it does. It feels like a long time ago.
Longer than a week. It was a week ago today, wasn't it? And it feels like it's been longer than that.
It does. FPL Scoped is here. He says, brave of Sam to wear that top after today's performance. Well, you happen to have been at the game.
I've been there.
You were at the game watching that dross today. So we're going to
dive. The only good thing about being at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium today was the donuts that they now have.
The donuts at half-time were the highlight today.
Honestly, that was the same. I took Max today, and my gosh, if there hadn't have been donuts, I think that at one point he said to me, do I have to support Spurs?
Oh, what?
And I looked at him.
Are you telling me there's a chance? Where's that meme? I need a little Jim Carrey meme.
And I went, are you joking? And he went, well, I know it's in the blood, but do I have... And these were his exact words. I know it's in the blood, but
he didn't use a phrase like that. He's 9 years old.
But I say this to him, don't I? Right. I say, Spurs are in your blood, Max. So once they're in your blood, you can't get them out. And then he says, I mean, Arsenal keep winning. And I was like, right, stop there.
Stop right there.
Stop there immediately. No chance. And then I said to him, my mum looked horrified because she was on the other side of him. And I went, the only route for you if you want to support Arsenal is adoption. And he went, okay, I'm over it, mummy.
You traumatised our child after he dared suggest.
I said, would you like a donut? And he went, yes, please. And I gave him a donut, and then he was quite happy.
Well, Daniel Banks is quite rightly saying those donuts must have been good, Sam. The 11 on the pitch were no good.
They were terrible.
11 donuts on the pitch.
They were
shocking.
They were worse than donuts. They were awful today. I tell you who wasn't awful today. Was Brian Hill. The rest of them.
Not
dreadful.
Good. Yeah, not
absolutely
good,
dreadful.
Not good.
But Brian Hill, I thought, actually played quite well.
All right.
The donuts were great, by the way. If you're interested, I had one with a brownie on the top. Max had one with an Oreo on the top.
Excellent. Thank you for that insight into going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. More donut insight later on in the live. Yeah,
it was quiet.
Do you know what? That came across on the TV, by the way.
Yeah.
There was definitely a bit of a hangover.
I don't know whether the song was the one that was about the ref. We all sang "You're Not Fit to Be a Ref." That was the loudest song all day.
Well, I don't think you can blame the ref.
And then
for
the
today.
villains
it was not good.
Down the other end were like, "Oh, we forgot that you were here." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not surprised. We were absolutely silent in the stadium today."
Well, just before we jump into the game, Sam, and we might as well start at Spurs. Miena Sidholm, hey Miena, Happy New Year. He's saying, what happened to Kulu today? What's the deal?
Well, he was there. He arrived with the team. Apparently picked up a muscle injury in training yesterday. According to Alistair Gold, who's normally quite good on this stuff.
He is, yeah.
He's got to have a scan tomorrow to see how bad it is.
Missed him, didn't you, today?
Yeah, apparently they did say that they were hopeful it might only be this game that he misses. But the trouble is, it's with this close deadline being tomorrow afternoon, the chances of us getting firm word on Kulusevski before 4 o'clock's deadline tomorrow, I would say is quite small, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, let's dive into it. We're going to have a look through some of the games, some of the action that's happened over the last couple of days. Then we'll look at our teams for tomorrow's deadline. I keep saying that because I'm going to forget myself. But, guys, tomorrow is the deadline. So we're going to look at what transfers we're going to make ahead of tomorrow's deadline. But let's start then at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with Spurs 0, Aston Villa 2. You went into it very heavily invested in a Spurs... you needed a landslide result because you had Kulusevski and you've got Harry Kane in your team, of course. How are you now feeling? Well, first of all, before we get into the FPL side of it, I'll give you my view on watching it on the TV now. Obviously, you were closer to the action than I was, but some of the key players you missed today, it really felt like you were missing them, like Kulusevski, like Bentancur. Like you really missed Bentancur.
Yeah.
And there was just a couple. I really don't think there's something not right with Yves Bissouma either, because at Brighton he was a totally different player to what he is at Spurs.
Game time like
that is probably true. That is probably true.
That's part of the problem.
He was well off it, Sam.
But he was, and he's got booked now. So now he's suspended for the Crystal Palace game in midweek because that was his fifth yellow. So now which is why I think Skippy came on towards the end of the game, because we're gonna have to play Skip and Højbjerg in there in midweek, because I don't think Bentancur's going to be available. I think for me the key thing with Spurs at the moment is that we are very heavily reliant on the spine of our team. So the Lloris, the Romero Dyer combination in front of him, the Bentancur Højbjerg combination in front of him, and then Kane and Son in front of him. That midpoint of the team all the way up is really important in a way that maybe it isn't so much for other teams. Like for Liverpool, I wouldn't have said the spine is so important because you go out wide quite a lot, whereas for a lot of our play comes down the middle quite
You've seen Joe Gomez play at centre half, but yeah.
We'll leave Joe Gomez out of it for a minute. But the rest. So today, when I looked at the team sheet, I was like, okay, this is a problem because there's no Bentancur.
Yeah.
There was no Eric Dyer, and I truly believe that our defence suffers massively when Eric Dyer's not there. He offers a leadership and a voice in the team, which was really lacking today.
But we were saying that about your Argentinian dude a week ago.
Well, Ramiro,
we were saying that about Ramiro a week ago.
The two of them together in that central defensive position, they're really important for each other. They do a good job. So, like today, there was a lot of times where Ramiro was our furthest forward player, and I was like, why is Ramiro up here? Because there was some passion about him today, but that left us really vulnerable at the back because the likes of Longley and Davis, and then at one point we had, there were so many defenders on the pitch by the end of the game. It was like, what are we even doing here? And then we didn't have Kulusevski and Son. I love Son.
What is up with Son?
But he's totally off it at the moment. He is so far away
He's been off it all season.
He is, massively. He's so far away from the player that he was 6 months ago.
Okay.
Like even little things like his confidence. Kane put him out a really nice ball today, and he just lifted his foot up and it ran out for a free kick, for a throw in, and he just threw himself on the floor with his head in his hands. And I was like, son, this is not you, and it's a real problem. The atmosphere in the stadium was down. The players were down. I think Kulusevski's energy would have massively helped.
Sure, yeah.
So I don't know. Kane felt very isolated. He was. There was nothing about Kane today because he wasn't really...
No.
We weren't moving well. So the whole thing was a bit of a disaster. Having ranted about Spurs, credit to Aston Villa. They played really well today. They came...
Well, before we move on from Spurs, I want to hear it from an FPL perspective in a minute because you've got two in your team. Before we do, two super chats. One from Cy Burdett. Thank you, Cy, for the super chat. He says, happy 2023, fam. Happy 2023, Simon. Watching Spurs on New Year's Day was more painful than my surgery last week. Oh, we had surgery? Yes, of course you did. Simon, hope that all went well. In fact, he says it did go well and he's recovering okay. So, good stuff, Simon. Good stuff. Good to hear from you. And also a super chat from Duncan Crawford. Thanks, Duncan.
Hey, Duncan.
Happy New Year, guys. He says, hey, Duncan, Happy New Year. 69 points for me this week. Very happy with that, as you should be, my friend, as you should be. Special year for us this year, and my partner will have been together 10 years. Oh, check that out. Go on, Duncan, lad. 10 years, mate. 10 years.
Should we put Lee on the spot and see if he even knows how many years we'll have been together this year?
Oh, it's over 10. 13.
Oh, stop it.
What? Have we been together or married?
Together,
more than that. More like 17, 18, 19. Duncan, you've got me bang in trouble there, mate. Absolutely bang in trouble.
We have been married 13 years this year, but we've been together.
Oh, did I at least get that right? Okay. Sort about the doghouse.
No, not really.
Spurs from an FPL perspective then. You've got Kane, you've got Kulusevski. What's the deal?
I'm not going to do anything with Kane.
Right.
I think I'm going to keep Kane.
Even though there's Nketiah and there's Mitrovic and there's loads you haven't got that are performing well at half his price.
Yes, but I've also got a flag on Reece James and a flag on Kulusevski. Right. And I think, when you're talking about the weakest points of your team, Kane is not the weakest point in my team at the moment. And I always one for believing that you should make the changes to the weak points to strengthen your team as opposed to, look, you've got to remember that not 3 days ago Kane was scoring against Brentford and was returning well. So let's not go crazy. I think Kane is a hold. I think Kulusevski is the bigger quandary because if he's going to be fit and available for the Crystal Palace game on Wednesday night, then I would want to keep him because...
Doesn't sound like it though. Having to have a scan...
It's unlikely. If he's going to have a scan tomorrow, he's not likely to play 2 days later,
there's something up with him enough that he wasn't in the squad today.
He was
and now
he's
got to have a scan. That means nothing.
No, but it was weird because he arrived on the coach with the players, which is not normally if you're injured, you wouldn't arrive with the matchday squad. You would arrive
Depends what
separately.
it is, but yeah, okay.
So I don't really know. Well, no, normally at Spurs they sit upstairs. They don't normally get involved with that. So it was a bit of a weird one. I don't know if it was a late call on him this morning, see how he felt, that sort of thing.
Well, let's have a look at the Spurs fixtures going forward then. So here are the fixtures, courtesy of Fantasy Football Scout. If you're not yet a member of Fantasy Football Scout, of course, usual plug, you can go and follow the link in the description below. Go become a member.
It's great.
Over on Fantasy Football Scout. We use a lot of the stats that we have on here about XG underachievement, XG overachievement, where we talk about crosses and touches and shots and everything else. It's all there. It's absolutely all there for you on the front page of the members area. It is my go-to source for FPL data, and you get the bonus edition of being able to look at the fixture difficulty rating, which you can see on screen right now, and you can sort it depending on difficulty, either in attack or for defence as well. And if you don't agree with the severity or the difficulty of a particular fixture, then you can change it and make it and customise it yourself. So brilliant piece of kit.
You can delete game weeks and all sorts.
Very, very integral part of my FPL planning on a week-to-week basis. And this is what the Scout FDR ticker is saying right now. Man City at the top, courtesy most likely of those two upcoming double game weeks in game week 20 and 23. A not so nice looking fixture away at Chelsea, or maybe it is based on that Chelsea performance today. We'll talk about that later on. But the Spurs fixtures are Crystal Palace away in 19. Then it's the double game week, but as advertised, it is a very difficult double game week with Arsenal at home in the North London derby. And if I were Arsenal, I'd be licking my lips at that fixture right now. And then it's a trip to the Etihad for Spurs, so it doesn't get any easier. Before Fulham.
They did win both those games last year.
And then Man City again, and then Leicester. So you've got Kane, you've got Kulusevski. You've got no thoughts to moving Harry Kane on? I mean, you can't ahead of a double game week, can you, really?
No, I mean, my original thought was I'll have Kulusevski for a couple of weeks, and if he hasn't performed, he was my kind of differential punt, if you like. For the idea was for game week 17 and 18, and if he'd returned in 17 and 18, I'd hold him through game week 20 in the double. And if he hadn't, I'd look to move him to a Chelsea forward for the double game week.
A Chelsea forward?
Well, a Chelsea forward player like Mount or
right, okay.
You know, probably Mount, to be honest, but Pulisic maybe, depending upon who had done well at Chelsea. The issue I have with Kulusevski now is I thought he was good against Brentford, particularly in the last 30 minutes when Spurs decided to actually play football in game week 17.
Yeah.
I thought he was unlucky not to get a return in that game. You know, he got the assist that wasn't an assist for the Kane goal. And then he's missed out today. And I do feel like had he played today, he probably could have and, you know, would have been involved at least and had a chance of getting some returns. But it's now a bit of a quandary as to what you do with him because we're not going to have the information. So I'm probably going to have to sell him ahead of game week 19. The bigger question is, with Chelsea not performing great today either...
Where do you go? Yeah, who do you go to?
And I've already got Pereira, so there's not really a Fulham player that I think is there. So I'm probably looking at a non-double game week player, which feels a bit weird, though,
Lots
doesn't
of options,
it?
I think, outside of the double game week.
I do think when you've got a double game week, it does feel a little bit odd.
Yeah. Well, listen, as a non-Spurs owner in FPL, after that performance today, even with a double game week coming up, I'm not going anywhere near him. I'm not. I mean, it's becoming a bit of a worrying trend now. You've not been good all season, to be honest with you. It's just that you were getting the results early on in the season. You were sort of clawing games out of nowhere. You were grinding them out, getting the points somehow. And I remember sitting there thinking week after week, well, they ain't played well. Imagine what'll happen when they start playing well. Well, that hasn't really happened, has it? It hasn't really come on yet.
No,
well, not yet, but you know,
well yet.
Not yet. No, but you need to start picking up results. And with 2 games against City and against Arsenal, and yes, you can look at the double game week, but for me, 3 of the next 5 games are against the top 2 of the top 3. It's very difficult to invest in Spurs.
I do think that I agree with you, and if I didn't have any Spurs players, I wouldn't buy. But I also think with Kane, those games against Man City and Arsenal are exactly the sort of fixtures that he does tend to score in. So I'm reluctant to sell Kane on those basis. I think once we get past...
You reluctant to sell Kane? That is a shock.
Once we get past game week 20, if he's not returned, then I think probably the time might come when I'll consider it. But given I've got flags on my team and I kind of feel like there's bigger issues across my squad, it's not a decision that I'm prepared to take at the moment. I don't think I need to right now. Interesting.
So, Sai Badet, thank you for the super chat. The second super chat of the evening from Sai. Did you see Conte's comments? I think he's off. Yeah. Not happy, Antonio Conte, to say the least. I'm not sure that he'd be off.
But also, Antonio, bring the mirror out and just have a little look for a minute, because he was very upset today and there was a lot of shouting going on, but there was not a lot of changing the team for the better going on. You could, in the crowd...
You know what'll happen, though? You know what'll happen? If you don't give him a couple of signings that he wants in January,
Poch
he will go.
Yeah, Poch will be back.
Poch will be back.
He
Why
will
would
be
Poch
back.
go there?
He absolutely will be back.
Anyway, let's move on from Spurs. We've spent 20 minutes talking about Spurs. Let's talk about Aston Villa, though, because they were very, very good. And I have to say, they won the game in the middle of the park, where, you know, for every Bentancur that you missed, I thought McGinn, I thought Douglas Luiz was fantastic today.
Yeah,
really good. And it's easy to say that because he took his goal really, really well and he's in the FPL points. But even if he wasn't, I think I'd have signalled him out as a really good performance.
Buendia was the one that really impressed in the stadium today. I thought Buendia
for you, was it?
Yeah, watching it live, he was the standout for me. His movement off the ball was excellent. His positional play, the balls that he was putting in.
Yeah. He
really impressed me today.
Yeah. The player that impressed me watching it on TV, yes, I thought Buendia played well. And I've been his biggest critic in the past, as most of you guys know, but Ollie Watkins...
No, he did not impress us in the stadium.
Why not?
No, it was interestingly, I was about to say the opposite.
You're joking?
No.
Working hard, off the ball movement.
It's interesting you've said that.
He was the reason they got the first goal.
But it was interesting because in the stadium we were all like, this game is crying for Danny Ings. Get him off, put Danny Ings on.
Oh, wow.
That was really interesting.
Why?
I just thought he played badly today. But Buendia, watching him, I thought he was excellent. And I thought Mings was brilliant at the back as well. There was a lot of really good stuff going on down there. I also thought that Leon Bailey played well for the majority of the game that he was on for. But Watkins didn't impress me at all.
Do you not think Watkins' movement and energy and work rate makes the space and makes the likes of Buendia and Bailey and Douglas Luiz and McGinn have a good game in a Firmino-style way?
Maybe.
If I can make that comparison.
Maybe, but that doesn't make him an FPL asset.
I wasn't necessarily saying that. I was just saying I thought he played well on the day.
I didn't, but maybe watching back. Although I don't really want to watch the highlights, but maybe watching the highlights back, I might see it differently.
Yeah.
But for me, it was Buendia. Everywhere I looked, there he was, working hard, moving the ball around. I was really impressed.
All right. Okay. Aston Villa's fixtures then going forward don't make too bad a reading for the next 4. No double game weeks for them, of course. So you're going to find them towards the bottom of the ticket because of the no double game weeks. But Wolves at home, Leeds at home, Southampton away, Leicester at home before they go City in 23. I mean, the next 4 game weeks for Villa, they don't look too bad. And I'm not hearing too much chatter in the FPL community about getting on a Watkins or a Buendia or a... I don't know, where else could you go? Could you go for a...
Be trolled?
Could you go for someone at the back? I don't know. Or could you stick Martinez between the sticks?
Well, he didn't play today.
There's 4... Yeah, but he's on the bench. He's going to play at some stage. He's going to come in for Olsen, you'd think. But there's 4 fixtures there that look great, don't they? 3 home games and the only away game is Southampton.
Yeah. I mean, the fixtures are nice. I think the thing is that with the new manager coming in, ahead of game week 17, you were probably never really likely to invest heavily in Aston Villa because they had 2 difficult games to start off.
Yeah. But now you might. I think the quandary, I guess, is it goes back to the double game week thing, doesn't it? Do you want to invest in a single game week team like Villa, or do you want to invest in the double game week teams like Fulham and Chelsea? Now, it's a double-edged sword, I think, isn't it? Because yes, you have the potential, and that's the key word with Chelsea and Fulham, to get double the minutes and therefore double the potential returns. Yeah.
However, you also have the massive spanner in the works of the FA Cup tie in the middle of that. Plus, you have the 5-card, yellow card bans hanging over some players in that game. Particularly, I'm thinking about Mitrovic. Whereas with Aston Villa, you don't maybe have the benefit and the potential upside of a double. However, with the fixtures that they have, there's no reason why they couldn't outscore Chelsea, Fulham, get more game time than they do. It's a kind of question, and I think we've seen enough of Villa in these last 2 game weeks where they've had difficult fixtures but have played well to be able to see some value in their teams. I wouldn't go Watkins because I think those forward 3. I think if you were going to make a forward change and you didn't already have Mitrovic, it would be for him. But the midfielder spots, and potentially with injuries to players like Reece James, why not have a look at an Aston Villa defender?
Yeah, possibly. I think if I was going to go somewhere, I think I'd go Buendia, just because I think I saw enough of the dynamic that Emery is looking to instill, I think, which is Watkins is the hard worker. He's the one putting the graft in. All right, he's not He's not Firmino. I've just seen it in the chat. He's not fit to lace Bobby's boots. I agree, but he's doing that sort of role, and that's only going to benefit those around him, I think. And Buendia could be one. And listen, Phil Coutinho could come into the team, but I don't see it. I think he's on the way out, and he was always Gerrard's boy, right? So Emery's going to be coming in, looking at where his young players are and who he can invest in.
You thought their goalkeeper had a good game today as well, Olsen. I wouldn't put it past him to stay in the sticks for a little bit.
All right, enough about that game. Loads we've discussed on that
good.
game.
Let's move on.
Let's absolutely move on. Where should we go to next? I want a quick chat about Wolves 0, Manchester United 1. Couldn't believe that United got into 0-0 at half-time, or Wolves got to half-time at 0-0 because Anthony Martial, who was in my team, by the way, or at least he was first sub, but I benched him. He was fourth for XG underachievers this week with an XG underachievement of 0.63. He missed an absolute point-blank header. Should have scored, in my opinion. But what are we saying about Rashford? I think that the benching, by the way, I understand why Ten Hag's done it. I think Rashford did the right thing, which is come out and speak after the match and said, look, I missed the team meeting. I overslept. That's wrong of me. The club are right to punish me. The punishment is I start on the bench. It is what it is. And he come on and made his point. I don't think that affects him going forward.
Well, Ten Hag said it's over, didn't he?
I think it's done and dusted.
He said that.
Do I think the punishment is... I was going to say befitting of the crime. It's not a crime, is it? But do you know what I mean? It's like 45 minutes benching. It's not really a punishment, is it? But
there were some interesting comments, though, wasn't there, by the pundits at the end of that game? I can't remember who it was that was talking that said, what happens if Rashford oversleeps by accident and misses the first... Because he didn't miss the whole meeting, did he? He just overslept and missed the beginning.
Yeah.
Oversleeps, misses 5 minutes of the meeting, and you got to play Man City next. Are you really saying you're going to bench Rashford for that game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wolves away, you might bench him.
So, but you've got to think about these punishments. Now, look, as a Rashford owner, was raging when that team sheet came out. I was like, what? But fine, if that's how Ten Hag wants to go about it, then that's fine. But what I will say is that what a difference he made when he came on. They were a different team.
He is their key threat right now. There's no question about it. Martial, despite having a reasonable game in game week
17.
Yeah, who did they play last week?
Forest.
And he did okay. Got the gold and he did okay.
But it was still Rashford that stood out. And Martial he had a proper Martial game here, which was missed a sitter, let it affect him, didn't really have much of an impact on the rest of the game. Rashford comes on, wants to make an impact, wants to kind of prove a point, comes on, could maybe have had 2 goals, went not for VAR as well, so a bit unlucky not to get the second one. He then got frustrated and got booked, didn't he, which is a bit annoying. But nevertheless, Martial just didn't have an impact on this game. And that going into game week 19 is a concern for me because he's in my team right now. Got a really nice fixture at home to Bournemouth. But I really want to swap him out for Mitrovic. I really do. And we'll talk about transfers a bit later on. But that's going to bite you, don't you?
What?
These are the exact sort of transfers that you kind of go, I really want to do it.
But Martial he was just so not in the game.
But he's going to be against Bournemouth.
But the other thing was that he also, I think he's genuinely is an X minutes threat. And maybe there's a bit of confirmation bias here because I want to sell him, right? But he played an hour against Forest, and that was frustrating as an owner. You're just like, why is he not staying on? Well, the reason is he's made of glass and he gets injured really easily. He's just gone, I think, nearly 90 minutes against whoever it was they played, Wolves. So with a game coming up again in quick succession, that will be, 3 games in a week for Martial. I think there's a genuine chance that he's benched for this one. And Rashford, having been benched, all right, for disciplinary reasons, will come in and maybe get the start through the middle.
I mean, look, I think if you're investing in Manchester United, I think it's twofold, right? I am very much enjoying owning Luke Shaw at the moment. I think 9-pointer,
happy days, Luke Shaw.
That's
that's
back-to-back,
a great one.
back-to-back good returns from him in 17 and 18.
Is he the obvious?
Yes, because I think
James replacement.
If you don't have Luke Shaw, yes, he's the obvious James replacement. I mean, and I think you look across and I noticed as I was coming back from Spurs today that there was a conversation going on in the Slack about Wan-Bissaka, Malacia, and what happens when Dalot comes back, and the kind of the quandaries around who plays where. And I think there's enough in that makes me go, if you want to invest defensively in Manchester United, you do Luke Shaw. Now, yes, I'll take your point that somebody's going to make in the Slack here, in this chat, I'm sure, about how in game week 20 they then have a difficult fixture, and in game week 21 they have a difficult fixture because they've got the Manchester derby in there somewhere. Oh, it's in 20. It's part of their double game week, isn't it? It's Man City have got Man United and Spurs.
Yeah, they've got the Bournemouth game, and then let's have a look.
And then they've got
here,
Man City, and then there's another difficult game, I think.
Yeah, United, Bournemouth at home in 19, City in 20, Arsenal away in 21, and then Palace Leeds.
But after that Arsenal game, if you run the ticker longer,
it's all right.
The fixtures are really nice. So I think with somebody like Luke Shaw, if you have a bench that can cover it, then you can bench him against Man City and against Arsenal, knowing that then you've got him to come straight back in for the Palace game and beyond, where feasibly you'd play him every single week for a number of weeks.
He seems to be getting the returns at left centre-half as well, right? You've got to assume that once Martinez is back, he's going to go to left wing-back again and be probably even more of an option for us in FPL, right? He's getting the 9 pointers at left centre-half, presumably because of pass completion rate. And other things.
I mean, Ten Hag said he really likes him there as well, though, didn't he? He was talking about
he's playing well. No doubt.
He's playing really well there, and he's a really solid. I mean, I thought Luke Shaw had a brilliant World Cup for England as well, so I think he deserves.
He did all right. Yes, he did.
I think he deserves the starts, that he's getting and the plaudits he's getting. So I think with Manchester United, there's an obvious 2 in Shaw and in Rashford. I think the question is, would you have a third? I don't think I would. Whereas you've got Martial and Rashford, right, at the moment, no Shaw.
Correct, yeah.
And I think, for me, having Shaw over Martial is easier, because Martial, I just think that in those games against Man City and Arsenal, you're probably not going to want to play him, it's harder to bench him than it would be with Luke Shaw.
Yeah, all right. So United firmly on the radar, not least for their longer-term fixtures. Not much to say about Wolves, I don't think. I think we're going to move on from...
Kinder Bueno went off before this clean sheet
went. That's, to be fair, that is...
Gotta stop calling him Kinder Bueno. Hugo Bueno.
Hugo Bueno, for those that had him, went off...
You got him off the bench, right?
Mate, honestly, mate,
don't call
sorry,
me
mate. That was... that's because I've spent too much time with my friends that I used to go to school with over Christmas down the pub over this last few weeks.
I'm your wife, you can't call me mate.
Mate, sorry, I shouldn't call you mate. Dear, darling, sorry.
Dear? I'm not 55.
But your point stands, no matter what I call you.
You jammy.
Kinder Bueno, Hugo Bueno, going off a couple of minutes before the clean sheet was taken by Rashford. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that Cancelo didn't play this game week at all, and Bueno come off my bench as a 0.5 different, his EO in and around my rank was about 0.5.
Was it?
It was ridiculous how much it green arrowed me, that Kinder Bueno clean sheet. Absolutely unreal. And complete and utter jam. Because if it wasn't for the fact I'd kept Reece James, if I'd have done a Reece James transfer last week, Bueno would have been third on my bench, but he was second on my bench, and Martial was first. So Cancelo comes off, Kinder Bueno comes on for a 6-pointer. Absolute jam, but we take those, Sam. We take those. So Kinder Bueno, looking all right for Wolves. Let's cover a couple more of these games. A bit of a shock result, has to be said, at the Etihad. City 1, Everton 1. Haaland with the goal, of course.
Shock horror.
But what else are we saying about Man City? Because I remember, we sat here just before the break, and I remember you saying something like, and I'm pretty sure you said it last week as well, I'm not going to heavily invest in City outside of Cancelo and Haaland, because they're going to have so many fixtures, so many cup fixtures as well, included and mixed in around those Premier League fixtures. It's going to be really hard to know who's going to get the starts. You're absolutely right, Sam, from FPL Family, because here we are again. Foden bench, Walker bench, Cancelo bench. Again. Absolutely unreal from Pep. He is trolling us like you wouldn't believe. So Gundogan bench, yeah. What are we saying? Are you continuing to stay away from City, or are you going to plough in? Because, of course, they have got, in case you haven't been paying attention, the double game week coming up in 20. It's Chelsea away in 19, but then it's United and Spurs.
If there's no cup replays, would it put you past?
Is that not locked in? That
no. Would it put it past you for Spurs to fluff their lines and draw against Portsmouth, and that double game week be off? No, absolutely not.
Is that definitely not locked in? I thought once it hits the scout ticker, it's locked in.
No, it's scheduled. No? So where it's scheduled for that midweek is the FA Cup third round replays midweek. Oh, so if Chelsea and Man City or Spurs and Portsmouth require a replay, that double game week will be cancelled.
Oh, right, okay.
So there is.
Paying attention.
I'm always paying attention. I just can't say requires a replay.
Yeah.
It's too many R's. So yes, there is still potential that game doesn't happen. That Spurs and Man City double. I mean, I would hope that neither side needs a replay, but it's Chelsea and Man City.
So what are we saying about City then? Because I'm sitting here with KDB, who's blanked again this week, which is disappointing. Cancelo, who's stayed on the bench.
But you don't mind because
I was going to say that's disappointing, but actually this week it's not because King De Bruyne's come on. Of course you've got Haaland, but then, so what should I do? I've got Cancelo, I've got KDB. There's options around them, but I'm not going to sell them ahead of a potential double game week. Unless that double game week becomes a single, and then I might do something.
Yeah.
But even then, it's Wolves at home in 21. Another double game week.
The double in 23 is locked in.
That's locked in. So there's another double on the horizon, including that fixture against Arsenal, which is going to be mouth-watering. Mm-hmm. It's difficult to sell at the minute, I have to say. It's difficult to sell.
It's hard with City because... So the reality is... I mean, we're in January now, but this game week doesn't count because they played in December. They're going to have 9 matches this month.
But they're behind now, right? How many points clear Arsenal?
I'm not saying that they're not behind, and it means that you should get good teams. But the issue I have with Man City is that they can rotate their squad and still be putting out an 11 that
draws at home to Everton. Pep's got to learn from this, surely. I mean, the kid in that's coming in, Lewis. Yeah, nice, like him, good player, but he's no Cancelo, is he?
Yeah, but what's going on there?
Grealish is Grealish, but Foden's, in my opinion, clearly better player. He's got to be playing these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I totally agree with you. However,
what is going on? What is going on with Foden?
Well, and Cancelo. 2 benchings on the trot for Cancelo. This is a player who didn't bench at all last season.
Yeah.
Not one benching for Cancelo last year. He played every game.
And Foden was benched a lot in the preceding games to the break, wasn't he?
Well, he played in 16, didn't he? Because he scored that worldie. But then
There's a lot of
3
benchings,
games before that, he was benched for because we all bought him in, and then he got benched for 3.
Yeah, you can't buy him right now. It's too much of a risk.
There's some and this for me is a massive thing because I take on board your point that Pep's got to learn from this, and he's got to put out his best team.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think he will. But I don't think that means you're getting 90 minutes out of these players because you can't. He cannot flog them. He can't play 9 times in a month. Oh, and by the way, if they stay in all competitions, it's also weekends and midweek throughout February and into March. So how long can you flog these players before there's a problem and you lose a key player to injury? We know from experience in the Bundesliga that you can't do this with Haaland. You can't flog Haaland because he will injure himself and they need his goals. So I think that there are consequences.
Have you seen the way that they set up though? He doesn't work that hard, Haaland. It's on a plate for him, isn't it? Every time. I know that's me doing him a massive disservice because he is absolutely elite and he's scoring like braces every week. So I'm not downplaying how good he is because he is the best in the business at the minute, no question. But it's not as if he's like he's not busting a gut, is he? He's not
No, he isn't.
I'm trying to think of a striker that does bust. He's not an Ollie Watkins.
Stop it. But also, you can't, as an FPL manager, when I'm trying to decide on my transfers in, I have to kind of weigh up a number of factors. One of them is the security of starts. And with Man City, there is none. That is the one negative that you have with Manchester City.
Even with Cancelo now, which is
borderline
bonkers.
The only one you seem to have the security with is... Well, you do have it with KDB. Yeah. But even so with him, expect a rest at some point.
Yeah.
And Haaland, you seem to have it with. But
Edison, right?
Oh, and Edison. But Alvarez is back now from the World Cup.
Noticed.
So, you might get a rotation at some point with him as well.
Absolutely the comment that Babani's just made in the chat. Yeah, maybe Alvarez comes in and takes some of Haaland's minutes while Haaland has a bit of a rest in the cups, maybe. Who knows?
You could see Haaland playing 60 minutes and having Alvarez come on and play half an hour. Yeah. Now, look, that doesn't mean that I think that makes Haaland a bad pick because, look, Haaland can score a hat-trick in 5 minutes.
God, no one is saying Haaland's a bad pick, Jesus.
No, but I'm just saying, when it comes to rotation at Manchester City, I think you take Haaland for 60 minutes and just accept it. Okay. You'd probably do the same with KDB, although that's more questionable with Salah as well, kind of in the picture. But I think when you're looking at the rest of the squad, even with Cancelo, you have to really consider whether they're worth the price tag that you've got to pay for them. Because, we're seeing rest for Cancelo, Kyle Walker. I suspect, surely Cancelo starts in 19?
You'd think so. Against Chelsea. This is a huge game. You'd think so, right? But Anyway, let's move on. It's difficult to know what to say about Manchester City other than, we're going to keep captaining Haaland, probably.
Are you going to keep KDB?
For now, yeah, for now. I noticed he was joint second for chances created this week. He's not in the XG, he's not in the XA underachievers from what I could see. I might have pulled the wrong stats. I think I've got XG underachievers, not XA. But still creating a lot of chances, right? Just wasn't able to or his team weren't able to put them away. We've got to give a shout out to Damari Gray, by the way. What a goal!
It was a great goal.
What a goal! Absolute stonker.
Come from nowhere as well, wasn't it?
It was completely against the run.
But
it was
then,
largely against the run of play.
After he scored it, Everton were going for it.
Yeah, they could have got more than a draw out of that game, Everton, weirdly. I don't know how, but they could have.
Nobody knows how.
Absolutely bizarre. Just before we go on to the next few games, Sam, we've had a super chat. Thank you to Cameron Starr for the super chat. Cameron saying, you guys are brilliant. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Can't wait to be a patron. So, Cameron, we would love you to join us as a patron. That is a very nice segue into our patreon.com/FPL family slide here. Cameron, here's all the details you need, mate. Links are in the description below. If you want to be an FPL family patron, if you want to come and support what Sam and I do here on the channel, we'd love to have you over as part of our patron family. You can join at 3 different tiers. There's the $3, the $5 and the $10 tier. Not going to go through what each of those tiers gives you, but most people will join in at the $5 tier, where you get access to our competitions. You get access to the Slack community, where a lot of people that are in the chat right now will be in there chatting, not just on a match day. It tends to peak on a match day, but throughout the week talking about FPL.
Well, it's every day at the moment.
Literally every day. It's quite busy in the chat at the minute. And you get access to our bonus Ohana podcast that we put out on a Friday usually just before the game week starts as well. So, Cameron, we'd love to have you over on our Patreon. That would be wicked to have you, sir. And just a quick shout out to Craig, to Duncan and to Omar, who are currently leading the Manager of the Month competition for November-December. Now, this is before this game week's action, right? So the game week we've just had, game week 18, was the final game week for this month's Manager of the Month competition. So I'm going to total up everybody's scores, and we're going to find out whether it's Craig, Duncan, Omar, or whether somebody's come from up the pack and had a really good game week and taken this month's crown. So we will announce on the next FPL Family live stream who has won the November/December Manager of the Month competition. But right now it's Craig who is leading the way with 224 points. Duncan not too far behind with 221, and Omar a little bit behind Duncan as well in 217. So any one of those guys, or indeed anybody from the pack just outside of 217 points, with one good game week, could absolutely take the crown for November-December. So if you want to take part in our monthly competitions, patreon.com/FPL family, get over to our Patreon and go support us over there, and you too can be challenging Craig and Duncan and Omar for the monthly prize. And if you're wondering what the monthly prizes are, for our UK patrons, it can be like one of the things you see behind us here, either the kind of signed Liverpool piece here, or the signed Spurs piece up there, which actually is a little bit out of date, Sam, with Harry Kane, Ericsson and Dele Alli on it. We probably need to get a bit of an update from that. So I'll get on to our friends at kickingtheballs.com.
I think I should have an Eric Dyer piece.
An Eric Dyer one?
Yeah, because I love Eric Dyer and Eric Dyer loves me.
For Eric Dyer piece, I'm not sure about that. But go to, I'll be heading over to kickingtheballs with 2s's.com. Again, links in the description below, where you can either buy these pieces and use our discount code to get a bit of money off there, or you can take part in our patreon.com/FPL family monthly competitions, and you can win one of these pieces. Or if you're outside of the UK, then we organise a different prize, because these guys don't ship outside of the UK. It's usually a replica shirt.
We normally send a shirt.
Send a Premier League shirt of your choice or something like that. Sam, let's get back to the games. I need to get back into here. Where else do you want to go? Let's have a quick talk about Newcastle 0, Leeds 0.
Did this one surprise you?
It did a bit, but when I looked at some of the stats from the game, it was quite an all-action game. It was quite a surprise that it was 0-0, and even more of a surprise that Newcastle couldn't break Leeds down in the end. I then went on to have a look at some of the underlying stats from the players in the games, and top for chances created in this game and across FPL throughout the game week, by the way, Kieran Trippier with 6. So I know he got some bonus points. I think he got the 3, didn't he? Yes, he did. Largely, I think, down to those chances created. But how he's not got more than a 9-pointer here is unbelievable. He was also top for crosses in the game week with 19, which is way more than Kevin De Bruyne in second place with 12. So Trippier, really, really unlucky not to get more than 9 points. To the point where I asked myself the question this as I was coming on the live stream. Why would we not consider captaining Trippier now? I mean, I know the answer is because we've got Haaland. But if you look at Trippier's last 5 games, he's got 3 double-digit hauls and an 8 and a 9.
Yeah.
The consistency of this Newcastle defence is really, really good. And he, in particular, is the linchpin, right?
Yeah, they've got Arsenal next, though, haven't they?
I think it is Arsenal next, yeah. So it's not going to get any easier for them, right?
No, and I don't think, I think this is maybe the week where if you were going to look outside captain in Haaland, I think this game week coming, the double, is probably the week where you'd have a look at it. Because Man City have just got that fixture against Chelsea. Now, whether you actually should look outside Haaland is another question, because we'll talk about Chelsea in a bit. But I think if you were going to look outside, I don't know that I'd look at Trippier, who's about to play Arsenal, given their way that they're attacking and the goals that they're scoring.
Almiron or Trippier against Arsenal this week? You're going to play them?
No, I'm going to play them because Arsenal defensively does leave a little bit to be desired. Now,
possibly,
I don't mean that in a negative way, because Arsenal have been fantastic recently, but defensively they do have. I never feel certain that they're going to get a clean sheet. I think that's the best way of saying it. And I think with attacking players like Almiron and like Trippier, you can always get an attacking return against Arsenal. I don't think that Newcastle will clean sheet though. So I'm going to play my Newcastle players, but I wouldn't expect it. I'm not expecting a clean sheet from Trippier.
Yeah, okay. Not much more to add other than that. I mean, I'm not panicking on Newcastle, not panicking on Almiron or Trippier, despite the 0-0 here. Certainly not on Trippier. I mean, he's locked into the team long term, I think. And as you saw from the fixtures a minute ago, yes, it's Arsenal away this week, but after that, the next 4 look great. I mean, they could absolutely be... We could be getting to game week 22, 23, and they're in the mix, Newcastle. If they beat Arsenal this game week, that'll put a spanner in the works for the title race, wouldn't it? I don't see it. I think Arsenal playing too well at the minute, but it's going to be a cracking game.
I'll say now, I think Newcastle are 100% going to play in the Champions League next year.
Oh, for sure.
I think they're 100% getting Champions League football next season. I think if Arsenal drop some points against them at the weekend, they're in the title hunt. And I think from an FPL perspective, they are a team we should be looking to treble up on.
Yeah, I think you could be right.
But maybe not for Arsenal.
Yeah, I think you could be right. Let's move on to the next game. Quick super chat from Cyberdet. Thank you, Cy. We need an FPL family meetup, guys. Make it happen. We go to Fantasy Football Fest whenever that's the thing.
Yeah, but that probably isn't till... I don't know when the next one is. They're not doing one in January, are they? So
are they not?
It'll probably be August, I would have thought.
Next summer.
We'll work it out. Next time we're at an FPL meet, we'll let you know.
Yeah, but we always go along to Fest, don't we? So it's a good opportunity to
met at Fest, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we did, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Couple more games to discuss then, Sam.
Duncan will be there with his biscuits.
Arsenal 4, Brighton 2, or should I say Brighton 2, Arsenal 4, to give it... to put it the correct way
weird game.
round.
This one was a weird game.
Odd game, wasn't it? Because we watched a little bit of the first half, but then we went out for dinner because it was New Year's Eve, and your watch was going crazy with
updating the scores.
The Slack community giving you updates on the scores. Again, as a Martinelli owner, well, let me get it out there first. Ben White owners, unite. This is a safe space for us Ben White owners.
Oh, I think you've been really unlucky here.
I'm not going to whinge, because for every bit of luck I had with Kinder Bueno, I didn't have it with Ben White. I mean, I'd put Ben White in my starting lineup. I didn't do the James to Shaw move this week because I thought, well, Ben White's an able deputy.
The thing is,
which he absolutely was up until the point. 59 minutes and 40 seconds in.
I sort of trolled you a little bit as well, didn't I? Because I told you Ben White had gone off.
There's a shot, by the way.
No, but I didn't mean to, because on SofaScore it told me he went off on the 61st minute. So I was like, oh, Ben White's gone off before
sitting there
the goal.
eating the New Year's Eve pizza, quite happy that Ben White had got the clean sheet.
And then I looked and the app had him down on the 59th minute, and I was like, oh, savage, I've just told Lee the wrong thing. But I didn't mean to. It was on SofaScore on the 61st minute, and I was like, brilliant, he'll be delighted. And I was raging that had happened, and then when it ended up that you didn't get the points, I was like, oh, dodged a bit of a bullet and knew you'd be cross with me.
So let's just put it this way. Arsenal are on fire, right? So despite the fact they've got Newcastle coming up, which is a tricky fixture, they've got Manchester City on the horizon. Let's have a look at their I'm in the mood to say that they're reasonably fixture proof, right? But it's Newcastle at home next. Then it's a London derby, which the way you lot played today, honestly, should hold no fear.
Can you imagine going to that one as well? There better be good donuts that day.
United at home, Everton and Brentford coming up, then City. So listen, they are middling to good in terms of the fixtures that are coming up for Arsenal. I mean, despite what you've just said, it is a North London derby. Anything can happen in game week 20. But the way that they're playing, the movement off the ball, the give and goes right now, the fact that Nketiah is coming in and doing a more than able deputy
100%.
for Gabriel Jesus,
Yeah, 100%.
they are banging form.
I
And I have to say, Newcastle at home, okay, difficult fixture. But from next week, from 20, I'm going to be looking at doubling up on them in attack. I'm going to keep Ben White, I think, for the longer term. But I'm going to go with somebody with Martinelli. And at the minute, I'm torn between paying a bit more for Saka, who I think is the best pick. But Ødegaard is incredible value, isn't he?
See, and this is where my dilemmas lie, because I think we are all... Actually, I won't speak for everyone. I think I have been massively overlooking Ødegaard. Now,
he was top for BPS amongst the whole game week across everybody. 46 BPS this week. Absolutely integral to what they're doing.
You were talking earlier about Ollie Watkins and the movement and all of that. Ødegaard gives you that, which is boosting his bonus points because his pass completion is excellent, his movement is excellent, everything is excellent. Plus, he's got actually attacking threat and attacking returns.
Plus, he gets the FPL points,
So he's getting the attacking returns, and he's got the bonus of all of the additional BPS stuff that he's got going on in the background, which is gaining him additional points. So any attacking return for Ødegaard, and he's likely to be up there in the bonus points. And you couple that with the fact that he is... Cheap. So much cheaper than Saka. Now, this doesn't mean I'm not for any, before you all start, I'm not hating on Saka. I think he's a great pick also. But I think when you've got a player like Ødegaard and like Martinelli, who have so much threat and so much value to be had, that then you look across your team and I'm so in the back of my head I'm thinking, well, I could take Kulusevski to Mount or someone else to benefit from the double game week, or do you know what actually I could do? I could just take him down to Ødegaard
and accept that's a longer term pick.
Accept the longer term pick, take the money in the bank, and suddenly I've got the money to get Salah if I want to. Suddenly I've got the money to move the rest of my premium, have a premium midfielder if I so choose. Now all of that stuff means that there's then I've enabled my team, but I don't feel like I've weakened my team because I'm adding a player like regularly returning points.
Yeah, he's so good at the minute. I'm speaking to one of my mates on WhatsApp during the game. He's an Arsenal fan, and he said that he reminds him of Iniesta.
Okay.
And I have, and maybe that's a bit too. Are we a bit early in saying that? Is that a bit too much of a dramatic statement? Maybe it is, but.
I don't think so.
Goodness me, I tell you what, he didn't half move it like Iniesta. He moves that ball quick, at pace.
I don't think it's too early to talk about him as a top talent.
Top player.
I think what we've seen is a guy come in. One of the things that Arsenal massively lacked last year was a bit of leadership and a bit of goil and a bit of kind of get up and go about them. Somebody to kind of take games by the scruff of their necks when they needed it.
But so I totally agree. But do you know what's interesting? And we've got to stop this Arsenal loving because it's
horrendous.
It's making you cringe.
I feel like I want to go and throw myself off the nearest bridge.
But what is happening to them is that they not sure they've still got a standout leader, but all of these players are maturing. They're 1 or 2 years older than they were. They're 1 or 2 years older than they were 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah,
you're right.
That's a shock, isn't it? They're 1 or 2 years older, let's say, and they are maturing into individual leaders. Like Saka is becoming a leader in that team.
Yeah, but I also think that what happened last season affected them. I think possibly. I think you rewind and you watch on their documentary that moment at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last year, which I loved and they obviously hated.
Yeah.
They all learn, those young players, it hurt at the time, but they took valuable lessons from it and it's boosted them going into this year. And now they've got a strong captain, they've got good players across the pitch, and they brought in Jesus, who I think has been really beneficial at the beginning of the year. But even with him now absent, the youngster, Nketiah, who's come in to replace him...
Got the confidence, hasn't he?
Exactly.
Got the confidence. And I noticed actually in the top 10 for XG underachievers, Zinchenko with minus 0.46. So potentially a bit unlucky for Zinchenko, who's now seems to be a reasonably permanent fixture in that side now that he's got his fitness back.
Can we stop now?
We're going to be looking at him, I think, over the next few weeks. On? We can stop and move on, Sam.
Let's talk about Liverpool for a minute.
Let's talk about Liverpool and Darwin Nunez for a bit because we need to get round to our teams and we need to talk about Double Game Week 19 and what we're doing for Double Game Week 19. What do you make of this game? Liverpool 2, Leicester 1. Lucky Liverpool.
Yeah, because were it not for two of the weirdest own goals I've ever seen, I'm not sure you would have scored. You know? Like, there was,
maybe not.
you had really good
maybe
chances. Nunez was doing his best to not convert his chances again. Even Salah, not on form. It didn't play badly, and I'm not saying that you played badly, but neither of them looked like they were going to score loads of goals in that game. Nunez should have, but it wasn't. And had it not been for two of the weirdest own goals I've ever watched, I just don't think you'd have beaten Leicester. And why are Leicester so much better away from home?
I don't know.
Why?
What I will say is that Leicester started reasonably well, but we started again. This is not the first time this has happened, but we started really badly.
Have you been learning from us?
Again, and there was some tweet I saw about the fact that Liverpool have now conceded 7 times in the first 5 minutes of games this season or something. It was something ridiculous like that. The way that Dewsbury Hall cut through that Liverpool, not just defence, but midfield as well, because he picked it up in midfield, was frightening. It was frightening. It really was. It was awful. And what I will say about our forward line is that both Salah and Nunez are in the top 3 for XG underachievers this game week. So Salah's top with minus 0.98. Then it's Mitrovic, who of course missed the penalty, so he's up there because of the penalty miss. Then it's Nunez. So if you take the Mitrovic penalty miss out of it, Liverpool have got the top 2 XG underachievers for the game week. So that tells you a lot about. Okay, those stats tend to disagree with what you just said about the fact that Liverpool didn't have chances and couldn't score. Just that we weren't clinical enough.
Not that they didn't have chances. You had the chances, but you never really looked like you were going to convert them. I think that's the problem.
Right.
There was a lot of, I'm going to have a shot, but it never, I don't know. Just for me, it was always like a frustration watching Nunez again.
So what are we saying about Darwin Nunez then? Because a lot of managers have got him. He's top for shots this game week with 7. The next best was Douglas Luiz, interestingly. Martinelli and Anthony all with 5. So he's way out there on 7 shots. He is a shoot-on-sight sort of player. I happen to think that we should be exercising patience with him. I do think that there is a brilliant FPL asset in there somewhere once he finds some confidence and gets a couple of goals.
I'm going to hold him.
I think you should.
Which means not having Mitrovic.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting. Listen,
you've got Brentford next.
Yeah.
Who probably are going to be without Tony because he got stretchered off with a knee issue. I just, at some point, these amount of chances that Nunez gets, surely at some point he converts one of them. He's
got all the attributes that scare the living bejesus out of defenders: pace, bit of power. Movement is good. He's a reasonably intelligent mover. He just needs confidence. He is a young lad, right? You forget he's only 22, 23 or something.
Yeah.
He's going to brace at some stage in the next few weeks. And then he's going to go, I think.
Talk to me about Robertson, because that is a transfer you nearly did, right?
Yes, the James. So James is still currently sitting in my team, as you'll see in a minute. But one of the transfers I nearly did before I rolled it coming into this game week was James to Robertson, because I just fancied us for a clean sheet, which I'd have been fuming 5 minutes in after this game, and then on the hour or just after the hour he went off injured, didn't he? Now I don't think I've seen or heard anything concrete about the news, but I'm pretty convinced that he ain't going to play tomorrow. I think it was his knee. I think he had a bit of a problem with. So, given that we have got a more than able deputy coming in Tsimikas, who actually come on and play pretty well, actually, and his Tsimikas' dead ball delivery is actually pretty good.
Yeah, does he want to come play for us?
He's decent. So, I know there's no doubt in my mind that Tsimikas gets the nod against Brentford. What happens after that depends on the severity of Robbo's injury, I think. But I'm not in the mind of saying, well, Robbo's out and now we are, really exposed at left back, because I think we've got an able deputy, and let's be honest, our defence can't get any worse the way that it is right now.
No, and I think the reality isn't, because we had this conversation on Friday evening, didn't we, when we were watching Liverpool, because when Robbo went off and Tsimikas came on, and I said, maybe that makes Tsimikas an option, and you quite rightly said yes, but at 4.5 there are better 4.5 options in the game that, I don't think
you bring him in, because at some stage Robbo will come back, right? I mean, some of the guys in the chat saying it's he's injured, but it's a dead leg, right? It's not, not a bad one. So say Tsimikas comes in for Brentford and you bring him in, you got to take him out again in
Well,
2 or 3 weeks down the line.
Because one of the things I said to you was, well, you don't want your 3 Liverpool spots this year in the same way that you have done in the past. So maybe having the third one burnt with Tsimikas isn't the end of the world. But when you can have Bueno for 3.9, why would you have Tsimikas?
Yeah, I also think that Robbo has been getting a lot of FPL points and assists recently because of the fact that everything that goes down the left-hand side, whenever we attack down the left, it's him. On the odd occasion, Nunez will hold his position and be like a winger, but he's drifting inside into more of a kind of 2 with Salah up top, and it's Robbo that does the overlap, right? Now, if Cody Gakpo comes in, there's a reasonable chance that Nunez stays more central, Salah goes wide, and Gakpo goes this side. And at that point, we've got to see how the Robertson and Gakpo thing works, and they've got to work on it, right?
If that happens, does that make Salah a worse FPL option?
It might mean that we start to see the 4-3-3 come back a little bit more. From what I understand, Gakpo is he likes to pick it up and rather than have chalk on his boots, likes to come in and get the shot away. A bit like a Luis Diaz. I'm sorry to say, I think Luis Diaz injury looks worse than it potentially is because he's brilliant, right? And I think if we're going to get top 4, I don't think we can go the rest of the season with, Darwin half doing a job out there and Carvalho. We needed to go and get Gakpo. So we have, which is good. Pleased with him coming in. I don't know much about him, guys. I know that he's got some great. If you look at his stats in the Eredivisie, it's brilliant. But it's the Eredivisie. I mean, coming into Premier League, it's different kettle of fish. Plus, it's Liverpool. You've got to get up to Liverpool's. You've got to get up to that level of intensity. He's obviously coming in a bit of Agent Virgil going on. I think in terms of the World Cup and the Dutch team and all the rest of it. So listen, I'm pleased to have him, but I'm not like He had a good World Cup, don't get me wrong, but I'm not thinking, we've signed an absolute worldie here. We'll see what he's like.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sort of keeping my expectations low and hoping more than anything. But to answer your question, does Mo therefore then go back out a bit wider on the right? We have to see. We have to see. Because when Luis Diaz was there, we saw that sometimes, certainly early on this season. And then, Klopp was, I think, basically told Salah, you need to drift more central and you need to be closer to the goal because you're our main threat. Obviously, that is the case.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
What we're saying, I think, is that you hold your Liverpool assets that you have.
Now. I think if you've got Nunez, and I can see some FPL managers wanting to sell, and I totally understand it, but I genuinely think
I just know if I sell him,
I honestly do.
If I sell him this week, he braces against Brentford.
He's going to get a hat-trick one week.
Yeah, and it'll be when I sell him, so I can't sell him.
Yeah, he is.
I also feel like, with the amount of chances he's got, when he gets one, the floodgates will open.
Well, I hope so, Sam. I hope so. But
surely.
So what would you do if you had Mo right now, though? Would you sell Mo?
No. Where would you go?
Well, this is it. Because
unless you go into Ødegaard or Rashford. If you didn't have Rashford...
Would you sell Salah for Rashford?
I probably would. Because I think Rashford is genuinely captainable this week.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I also think that Salah is captainable this week as well. But...
Well, quite. All right, so that is the games largely covered. We will have missed some stuff, no doubt about it. But let's get on to...
So it's because I spent too long talking about donuts.
It was the Spurs chat that went on for half an hour. Yeah, I was trying to get you to wrap it up, but it wasn't happening.
Guys, I'll send you a picture of my donut later.
It wasn't happening. Let's get on to our teams for the week. So here is my team.
At your green arrow.
With a green arrow, which is good. In a game week where, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? I had some luck with Bueno. I had some bad luck with White. You had Kepa's clean sheet going near the end of that Forest game, but you can't begrudge Forest that goal. They did deserve it.
Did Kepa get a clean... did he get a...
He got a save point, I think. He's put out a few saves. Darwin coming in, Martinelli coming in with 10. It's dribs and drabs, right? Trippier, again, with an 8-pointer. Just unreal. Absolutely unreal. What a great FPL asset he is. But elsewhere, it's kind of Rashford, Andreas, Darwin, all with the 5s, all kind of chipping in. Nothing for Almiron at home to Leeds, which is a bit disappointing, I have to say.
A bit more from him.
But, no
Can't
panic.
Can't get something every week.
No panic. The disappointment is the premiums, right? And I feel like as a De Bruyne owner, and if you've got De Bruyne, let me know how you feel in the comments, but I feel as if, again, I've got away with one again this week because, all right, De Bruyne has got the 1-pointer and he's got nothing but a booking, I don't think. But then Salah's blanked, Kane's blanked. Yeah. So all the premiums have blanked. So if you've got, I don't know if we all feel a bit like that though? Do you feel a bit like, Salah and De Bruyne are blanking? Do you feel like you've missed an opportunity with Harry today?
100%.
Yeah.
This morning, I think I said to you as I was walking out the house, I certainly said to Max as we were walking into the stadium, I was like, Bud, this is our opportunity to take FPL because
he's got Kane as well.
Because he's got Kane as well,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is, and I had Kulu at this point as well, and I was like, this is my opportunity to really take a march because
Having
I've got away.
come out from behind the sofa with Salah and De Bruyne.
Exactly. I've got away with nothing from Salah and KDB. This is my opportunity now to take 100k off my rank. If Kulusevski can assist Kane a couple of times, we are laughing.
Yeah.
As it happened, Kulusevski then didn't even play, and Kane blanked.
Yeah.
But I don't feel hard done by having watched Kane because he didn't deserve points today.
No, true enough. So there's my team. The also sub clearly hasn't happened, but Cancelo out. Kinder Bueno's going to go in, isn't he? I feel vindicated.
Does he know he's called Kinder Bueno by the FPL community?
Yeah, he definitely does. I feel vindicated in my. The biggest decision I had to make once I decided that I was going to roll the transfer and keep James third sub for now was, do I play Martial, Martinelli, or Andreas? And I got that one right, so I was happy about that. And I was flipping between Andreas and Martial. Andreas could have had more points as well, because even the James Ward-Prowse own goal was credited as an Andreas goal to start with, and then it was sort of demoted to an assist. And then on the second goal, he was involved but didn't ultimately get the assist. So, listen, he's dangerous, Andreas. For sure, still, for me, the go-to value player in midfield.
The double?
Well, you say that.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm asking you the question.
Look, let's do that in a minute. We'll talk about your team. But anyway, I'm up to 215k. All good. That's about 30, 40k green arrow in a game week, which was a bit underwhelming, and I had a bit of bad luck with Ben White. It is what it is. We move on. Your game week, pretty good too. 63 points. So you're up to 769k, which is not to be sniffed at.
No, like 30 points behind you now, which, I mean, I was a lot more than that a few weeks ago. Like, it's been all right. Got a bit lucky because Kulusevski not playing means Andreas comes off the bench.
On. Yeah, well, you take those.
Didn't have a lot to come off the bench because I don't have Bueno, so I only had Kyle Walker-Peters' 1 pointer for Cancelo. But, so I've got a couple of flags potentially to deal with in Kulusevski and Reece James. They will be the transfers that I make, which means going into double game week 19 without Mitrovic.
Okay, all right. Well, let's do that now then. So you're up to 769k, up 20% in rank. Nice green arrow. So happy days. Very solid score. 63. Very solid score. Let's take a look at. So as usual, I've loaded up my team here in the window. I need to find the right window, which I think is this one. If that moves, that's the right one. Yes. So here's my team for game week 19 right now. 2 free transfers, 2.5 million in the bank. What would you do with this?
2.5 million in the bank?
Yeah, I know. Bonkers, isn't it? Bonkers. But that's because I went for Almiron over another sort of 7 or 8 million when I went on the unlimited transfer window. So that's where I'm at. I've got my 2 free transfers. The 2 that I'm looking to get rid of are him and him. James and Martial. And the 2 that I'd like to get in are Mitrovic. Because genuinely, despite the penalty miss, so if that penalty goes in this week, he's got what did he get last week? 15, 14? 15. He got 15 points last week, and he'd have got a 7 or 8 pointer this week. He'd be in absolutely everyone's team.
But
what do you mean, but?
He didn't look great this week.
Yeah, but don't worry about that. He's on pens. He's scoring goals. He's in decent form. He's got good players around him. Look, Fulham's underlying attacking stats.
4 yellow cards.
Look, you've got to get that out of your head.
He's going to get booked against Leicester. It's the Chelsea game.
That's fine. I would rather. So if he'd have got booked this game week and he missed the Leicester game, that's different.
Yeah.
But if he ends up missing the more difficult of the 2 games, that's fine, isn't it? Well, it's not fine.
Yeah, but okay, all right.
You can mentally deal with it.
Yes.
I was just waiting for him to get through this game. If he got through this game without the yellow card, he's in. And you are desperately trying to talk yourself out of not having him.
No.
Because you've got Haaland, Darwin, and Kane.
To be clear.
And you've got no space for him. And you're trying to...
To be clear.
He is clearly the pick to have in game week 19.
If I had Martial, I would 100% do that transfer. I'm just saying that...
Even with Martial home to Bournemouth.
Yeah, because you got Rashford.
Yeah.
And I'd bring in Luke Shaw in the other position.
That is what I'm considering doing, yeah. That's what I'm considering doing.
Well, those are the obvious 2 transfers.
Yeah. I've had a look at putting Sven Botman in there as well. And going double Newcastle. Because at this stage...
You love a double up, you do.
You want to... Right, so hear me out on this one. You want to take advantage of the fact that Newcastle are defensively the best team in the league. Right? Yes?
Yeah.
Trippier is null and void. Everyone's got him. He's a legend. He is what he is. So he's a bit like Haaland. He's just in there and you're not getting any gains from him.
Yeah.
If you stick Botman in there as well, at 4.4, 4.5, whatever he is, okay, it's the double Newcastle defence for sure, but more often than not, they're keeping clean sheets because they're bloody good. So you stick Botman in there and you actually benefit from the fact that they're good rather than just have Trippier, which everybody's got. See my point? But I don't disagree with you. Luke Shaw, very good pick. Equally. Bournemouth at home is a nice fixture.
I just think in a game week this week where Newcastle have got Arsenal
yeah.
And Luke Shaw's got Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And Luke Shaw's got some attacking threat.
That's the challenge if you go there. Because I've got Trippier, Botman and White all playing each other. This game week. Well, yeah, but in defence it's a problem. And I've got Cancelo, will probably get benched again.
Oh, stop it. If he gets benched again... Know.
So I'm talking about De Bruyne being my top... No, I'm not.
Who's he got?
I don't even know. Villa away. That's difficult, isn't it? The way that Villa are playing.
Oh, your mate Ollie Watkins.
So probably Luke Shaw in there. Probably, right?
Any temptation to go Cucurella or somebody like that to try and exploit the double?
No. Chelsea are not. They're just... The only player that... And I'd love to hear from the Chelsea fans as to what you guys think. So Harry or any of the other Chelsea fans that are in, let us know what you think, because I was not impressed with them today at all. No. Not at all. They just lacked a little bit of hunger. They lacked a little bit of bite.
Which is weird because I was really impressed in game week 17.
Even the Sterling goal was jammy, right? It comes off of Bolly's, like, he scorpion kicks it onto his own crossbar. Yeah. And Sterling, like, it's not a tap-in, right? It's a good finish, but it's still a bit of a tap-in. And they never really looked like getting the second goal and killing the game off. So when Forest get the goal, it's just like, yeah, well, you deserve it. Do you know what I mean? And actually, both sides could have won the game, but you wouldn't have fallen off your chair if Forest had got the winner. No. The only player that stood out. The only player that I thought played reasonably well because I was looking for him positionally was Mount. Mount positionally was reasonably far forward in support of Havertz. He wasn't kind of dropping and doing what I thought he might do over these first few games and be a bit more defensive because of no Kante. He was at least getting in support of Havertz and being a bit like the second striker. But they desperately need a goal scorer. And don't give me this Aubameyang. He's not the answer.
I was not about to.
He's absolutely not the answer. They need a forward like you wouldn't believe. So therefore, I'm struggling to go for Chelsea in this double game week. I'm struggling. I'm more convinced of the two Fulham players in the double game week more than Chelsea. Because it's at Fulham, isn't it?
Yeah.
The game. Yeah. So where you going? So if you said to me right now, there's a double game week coming up, and the decision you've got to make is you've got to call really that Fulham and Chelsea game. Difficult game to call, but would you back against a home win there right now? Fulham against Chelsea at the Cottage. I'd go home win.
I don't know.
Not sure.
I find it really hard, and that's part of the reason why I'm struggling this week because I've got Reece James, who I've got to get rid of. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And I've got probably Kulusevski has got to be my other transfer this week.
Yeah.
Is the reality, because if you're having a scan on Monday, you're not playing on Wednesday. I would hazard a guess at.
Yeah.
So the question for me then is, so Reece James, as you would have heard if you listened to the official pod this week, my intention was to go Tim Ream. Because I'm planning Because I'm planning to bench boost in 19. So to give myself as many bench potential points as possible, because if Tim Ream gets 2 starts and therefore 4, but there is, the chance of a clean sheet in there somewhere against.
Talk, because again, you've done the same thing you did on the pod, which was you've dropped the bench boost bomb right at the end.
It will be a bomb.
Which is we've gone through the whole stream and you've gone, I might bench boost. You're going to bench boost in 19. Is that your thinking?
I don't know now, because now I've got issues. So, I mean, like Spurs, I've got issues. So my original intention was, yes, to bench boost this week, because the bench boost chip never works for me. I can never make it work. I always look to exploit a double game week with it.
Yeah.
And I like to look for as many double game week fixtures as possible. So I wait till there's like 7 teams playing twice or whatever it is. And yet, it somehow seems to backfire, because I'll put 3 City players in and they'll all each play 1.
Yeah.
Or I'll have, someone who gets injured or whatever reason. Or I don't have a playing second goalkeeper, etc, etc, etc. This week, I kind of feel like it all is there, because as we saw from my team this week, I had to bench Andreas, And I felt I was lucky in some ways that Kulusevski didn't play to get his 5 points off the bench. And I'm looking at my team for next week thinking, well, the only way I can get Andreas to play without the bench boost is to bench Almiron, which I don't really want to do because I know he's got Newcastle. However, I know he's got Arsenal. However, I still think my points before stand. If Brighton can score 2 against Arsenal, it would not surprise me to see Newcastle put a couple away against them too. So I'm really struggling on what I do with my forward line, which means the bench boost sort of makes sense. So
that is going to be a problem. Like, even I saw it in the chat as I was going through my transfers, and I was putting, what was I doing? Luke Shaw in here, so he's absolutely going to play because he's home to Bournemouth. I'm going to take Martial out. I'm going to stick in Mitrovic, so he's going to play.
So now you've got a problem because who's going to be your bench?
So Haaland, Mitrovic, Darwin, De Bruyne, got to really, haven't you?
You've got to bench one of them.
Andreas, So Almiron or Martinelli, I've got to call the Arsenal game, haven't I?
Yeah.
Who's going to win that game?
Plus, you've got to bench 2 of your defenders. Now, Bueno's fine.
Yeah.
Who's your other one? It's going to be Ben White, probably.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, it could be because it's not sure.
You're not benching Cancelo. You're not going to.
No, you're just not going to, are you?
So you're not benching Trippier, which means you're going to have to bench White. So you're basically then you're deciding, well, if you're benching White, surely you play Almiron, which means you're also then benching Martinelli, which feels ridiculous to bench Martinelli. And this is why I think the bench boost chip actually makes some sense, because it's going to enable you to play a 4.5 midfielder who is otherwise really hard to play, and he plays twice. So this is why I'm thinking about it. Now, I have to make sure that as far as the rest of my team go, they play in that case, which means getting Mitrovic is difficult because I don't really want to sell Darwin to do it. I won't sell Kane and I can't sell Haaland. So it means he's a struggle. Plus I've got flags on Kulusevski and Reece James.
So that's what I'm thinking of doing.
So I think I'm going to
Martial just to finish up on my bit. Martial to Mitrovic, happening, right? It's happening. I don't care that he's got Bournemouth. It's happening. Luke Shaw, I'm gonna sleep on it and see how I feel. Unless he's going up in price tonight, I might do it tonight. Or if James is going down again. But those are the 2 moves I'm probably going to make. The only thing I might do is I might hold off again on the Reece James transfer, because again that gives you less of a benching headache. But I think I want Luke Shaw in the longer term.
Your headache's not really the defence, is it?
No, it's not. It's the midfield, isn't it? And I'm not gonna not have Mitrovic.
You know what we all need?
I absolutely want Mitrovic.
That attack chip. That's what we all need.
Not that thing again. So your transfers then, you've got Kulusevski, you've got James, you've got to do something with them.
Yeah. So Kulusevski, Mount, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Mount. That's where my head was. My head was, right, well, I'll just go to Mount and exploit the double.
Given the way that Chelsea have played the first couple of games back, I don't see a rush to Mount either. So if you do get him in a double game week, he's a pretty low owned. What's his ownership? He's got to be pretty low.
I just kind of feel like
it's a reasonable punt.
It's a punt. Yeah. Is it a punt that I think is worth taking if I've not got Mitrovic? It might just
8.8 TSB. You know, if he happens to go off, and let's be honest, when I was watching the game today, he was in the sorts of positions to get points. Right now, they didn't play well enough to get him the points, but. He could be the pick.
It could be him.
City at home, Fulham, it's difficult.
It's difficult. It's difficult because if I go Mount, I'm literally going Mount because he's got a double game week. That's it. That's the reason.
Odegaard is second now.
He's
got more points than Salah. I mean, come on.
And that's the other pick. Is that do I just go? Look, I have to just admit here that Odegaard is the way forward, but. There's no double game week. I'm going to have like 5 million in the bank or something ridiculous, but that's fine.
I wouldn't worry about.
I'm not worried about the
money
bank.
in the bank.
I'm not worried about the bank. So I'm at the point where that's my choice. My choice is Mount, Kulusevski to Mount or Odegaard, one or the other. I don't know. Okay. I don't know what the answer is.
And the Reece James transfer?
Well, and he's a massive problem as well because I've got Luke Shaw, I've got Trippier, I've got Cancelo. My other one is Carl Walker-Peters, but he's my bench option, so that's fine. So who am I missing, really, defensively? I mean, I was thinking about going for a Fulham defender, but I think that's ridiculous. If I go Mount, I'm not doing that.
You just can't.
Well, no, I don't think you can. Well, you can, but I don't know if I want to.
Aspilicueta, maybe?
Yeah, but I don't really want to treble up on Chelsea. No. Not really. Do I go with somebody like the double up in the Newcastle defence? I don't think I want to. Really, not against Arsenal. And I also don't know that I want to double up on Newcastle defensively because they're so good going forward a lot of the time. I think I'd rather have an attacking double up. So it's that Reece James position that I'm really struggling with. So I've basically...
Tsimikas.
Wow. I am sort of looking for a player for 1 week.
No, you love him.
I'm looking for a player for 1 week that might just bring me some bench boost returns because whoever this player is, they're sitting on the bench, but they're going to be bench boosted in.
Yeah.
So I just need to have a really close look at the fixtures for this week and work out who I go with. So before this game, my original thought, I don't remember if I said this on the pod or not, was to go, I think I might have done, was to go Tim Ream for this double and then immediately move him to Eric Dyer for the Spurs double.
Right.
But Eric Dyer got benched today. I mean, I hope that Conte learnt a lesson.
Neither of those seem very inspiring moves, to be honest with you.
Well, they're not, Lee, are they?
Ream and Dyer.
But the reality is they're not. They're just benched options, aren't they?
They're just getting the bench boost.
They're just benched, yeah. So I just don't know. I don't know. I think I'm leaning towards Mount for the double game week. I'm leaning to just take a punt on Mount for the double game week. Knowing...
If Kulu's out for a prolonged period of time, that feels as good a move as any. Again... It's not one you can really get behind because Chelsea are not exactly firing all cylinders. But if they're going to score goals in that double game week...
Do you feel like he might be part of it?
You got... Yeah. When I watched them today, and I did watch them with a reasonable amount of detail, I know Sterling got the goal, but it was still Mount, Havertz. Those were the guys, really.
I just think
it was those
I'm
guys.
at a point with my team where... I feel like this is a 1 week transfer because that's the position I'm likely to refill for the week after if Spurs and Man City do have that double.
Okay.
So watch this space. I'll let you know on Instagram where I'm at with my defender. I need to really think
and whether you're going to
it.
bench boost or not, right? Tell me about your captaincy. Where's the captaincy going then? Because this is going to get interesting this week as well.
This is contentious as well because I don't think I can captain Pereira. It feels like I can't captain Pereira. I could captain Mount if I had him in a double game week.
Oh my God.
I do feel like I'm going a bit crazy though.
Mount captain and a bench boost. You're either going to be top 1k or 3 million.
Imagine me sitting here next week, my head in my hands, praying that Mason Mount he survives the FA Cup and doesn't get injured before the game against
Mount
Man
captain
City.
and a bench boost. Come on, Sam.
Or
get involved.
The other options I have, which I do really like, is I don't think I'm going to captain Haaland, you know. I think I might go Rashford if I don't go Mount.
Is that right? So if you are considering a single game weeker,
I think it's Rashford.
You'd have Rashford over Haaland?
I think so.
No chance.
I think I might.
If I was having a single game week player, it'd be Haaland. Forget it.
Oh.
Who have they got? Chelsea?
Yeah.
Yeah, Haaland. Easy.
Oh.
Easy. I like Rashford. I think he's playing really well, but Haaland's been unbelievable all season, and it's a big game. City will want to win it, I think.
What are you going to do?
The only thing that will tear me away from Haaland is Mitrovic. And it's between him and Haaland. I like your Rashford. I don't like your Mount, but if you want to do it, go for it. It's between Haaland and Mitrovic for me. No doubt
what has happened to me?
No doubt about it. So yeah, Mitrovic. And listen, it's full of risk, isn't it? Because if he gets the yellow against Leicester, then he misses the next game. I understand all of that, but I just think it's worth it in a game week where you've got Haaland anyway, so it's a bit of a hedge. If Haaland scores a brace, which he probably will, at least you got him. So you're sort of covering that a little bit. Am I clutching at straws a little bit? Whereas Mitrovic, stick him in as captain if he goes off. And listen, last game week he got a goal and an assist, didn't he? A goal and 2 assists. Should have got a goal this week if it wasn't for the penalty miss. I think he's a really good captaincy option this week. I really do. It's between him and Haaland for me.
What makes this all worse?
Rashford is a third, but he's a distant third for me, I'm afraid.
Oh, I don't think he's distant.
I think he's a distant third.
Oh, and then
far off on the horizon that I can barely see it's Mason Mount. But it's Mitrovic, Haaland, and then it's Rashford at the end of the road. And then in a different continent, it's Mason Mount. But if you want to bench boost the Mason Mount captain, Sam, Be my guest. So there we go, guys. Lots to be discussed, lots to be pondered over the next, literally day, and that's it. Because
not
that's
even
all
a
you've
day.
got.
It's 4 p.m.
Less than 24 hours to go until the next deadline. So if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this as a podcast tomorrow morning, and it's Monday morning, or it's maybe Monday lunchtime, you ain't got long. You have not. This is your 2 or 1 hour warning. If you're listening to this podcast and it's 5 p.m. on Monday...
Too late.
Too late. You've had it. You've absolutely had it.
Too late. You've captained Mason Mount.
Too late. You've got Mount captain and you don't know what the bloody hell's going on. Sam, what's coming up between now and the next deadline? Other than us just...
The next deadline? Between now and deadline, I'll be sitting on my phone going, what the hell am I doing? That's what's going on.
What's coming up next week then? Between now and the next time we'll see the guys next Sunday.
There's FA Cup.
So when is the FA Cup? Next weekend.
Next weekend.
So will we live stream next weekend? There's a chance that we might not, I guess, because it's FA Cup.
No, we will. Well, look, if Mason Mount's gone off, we're live streaming.
We definitely will. If Mason Mount has gone off and you've captained him, we will absolutely be streaming. And if Mitrovic has got a couple of goals, we will absolutely be streaming. But what else is happening throughout the week, though, Sam? Is there other
week
stuff?
or into next week?
Just whatever you want.
I mean,
this week and next,
there's some
going on.
There's
some stuff.
There's the pod. So this week's a bit of a weird one because obviously the game weeks are in midweek, so everything's a bit up in the air.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
so
fast and furious.
It is absolutely fast and furious. So there will be an official pod next week, as in not this Thursday coming, the Thursday after. I'll also be on Sky Sports News that Friday as well.
Oh, will you? Oh, very good. Okay. Skype or studio? Skype. Okay, very good.
Yes.
Good.
I think the next time it's studio based, you're in, not me. You're going without me.
I think it's not till February, is it? We've got a little while until we're back in the old Sky studios, but there's lots of Skyping and stuff going on, isn't there?
It's because of all the random deadlines, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and obviously we'll be doing Ohana. I mean, Ohana's will come. I don't know when the next one will be. Maybe because we normally do them just before the deadline, but you don't want to hear from my rambling. Well, you might want to hear my ramblings tomorrow if I've got Mason Mount. Let you know in Ohana. Yeah. So
lots going on then to answer my own question, because you're really fluffing around the edges.
Well, it's going to be a bit of a crazy couple of weeks. I don't know where I'm coming or going at the minute. I don't even know what day it is.
Well, hence the bench boost and Mason Mount captain, which you've clearly, your brain cells have been, I don't know, let's just say disintegrated by the last couple of game weeks, and the fact we've got less than a day until double game week 19 starts. So guys, thank you for tuning in to tonight's FPL family. Like I say, if you listen to the podcast and it's 5 p.m. UK time on Monday, you're already too late. It's the deadline.
Be with you.
The deadline is 4 p.m. Tomorrow, Monday. 4 p.m. UK time. So make sure that you get your teams locked in for double game week 19 before then. Play your bench boost chips if you're planning your bench boost chip. Get your captaincy on Mount Sam if you're going to captain Mason Mount. I will be captain either Haaland or Mitrovic, to be decided and confirmed over the next day or so. Look forward to seeing you next time. Might be next Sunday with the FA Cup. Might be the Sunday after that. We shall see. But until then, guys, leave us a like before you go. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Green arrows, guys.